All right, it is that time. Welcome to Sessions with Sam. We are getting started. I got my Diet Dr. Pepper. I got my Serverless for Everyone t-shirt. It must be time for Sessions with Sam. Glad you're out there. I hope you're out there. And today we are going to be wrapping up the latest, our talk. We've done 4 sessions on governance, right? And like I said, sometimes governance is exciting. Sometimes it's not exciting, but it's a necessary thing. And it's something that we at AWS work on tools to provide that. And one of the ones we're talking about today is AWS Configure. We've been talking about that, but we've been talking about how do you do, oh, there goes my camera. Let's see if we can fix that. I have this wonderful Logitech camera that hardware is great, but the software is a little funky and it'll do some weird things. There we go. Let's see if we can back that out so I'm not so big in there. All right. You get too close, you get to see. So I will tell you a quick story. This weekend, I was in the sun all day long at an old car show, and I didn't do any sunscreen. So I am peeling. My lips have cracked. I'm molting. So if you see that, I'll try to keep it clean. It's not really dandruff because I have no hair. But there you go. We're also still having problems with the camera. So if we can fix this. All right, HD camera. Yeah, exactly. There, that should stay. Here's the trick on the Logitech cameras. I turn off the autofocus, and that makes it work. All right, so let's get started. Hopefully you're joining us on either Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, on the Serverless Land YouTube channel, or even on my Facebook channel, which if you're on my Facebook channel, you're probably like, what's he talking about? But I put it there just so you see what does Eric Johnson do. So, all right, so you see my buddy Sam is right here. Let's get started. Let's jump in and see what we're going to do today. And actually, I'll bring up the screen, and then we're going to talk here. Give me 1 second. Apparently, I was not as prepared as I wanted to be. There we go. All right. So here's our screen. What we're going to be doing today, and I'll put it full screen in just a minute, is we're going to talk about, we've done this work. In the first day, we said, how do you set up config to record data in a single region, in a single account? Right, so we made a template to do that, and if anybody can tell me, is that big enough for everybody to see out there? I'll think it is until someone says different. I see John Walsh is out there. Let's see who else is out there. Give a call out if you're online somewhere. Just say, hey, I'm here. Rob Sutter, are you joining us today? We'll see. Maybe not. It's pretty quiet in the chat. That's okay. So what we're going to do is we set up the first week, we set up config and got it all ready to record data for an account, right? We did it in one region, but we can record in multiple, we can record in that account. Then we showed how to add AWS managed rules. Good. All right. Screen's good. Rob Sutter's here. We're good to go. Excellent. Then we set up so we could do managed rules. The AWS managed rules, like making sure a bucket doesn't have read or write access. And then the last week we talked about adding custom rules where we could build our own rules using Lambda functions to evaluate the configuration. So we showed how to trigger a Lambda when config ran an evaluation on something, get the full configuration and evaluate it for whatever parameter we were looking for. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense, you'll want to go back and catch that episode, and it's on the Serverless Land YouTube channel in the Sessions with Sam playlist. Okay, today we're going to talk about this is great, but what if I have 30 accounts, right? What if I'm doing a bunch of accounts and I don't want to go into each account and say what does my config data look like? Instead, I want to just be able to say, here's one dashboard to look at all the data. So I'm going to show you how to use the same template. We're going to use reusable templates to build this into any account and region that we want. All right. So look, we're going to start with our one that we built before. Let's take that full screen so you don't have to look at me. Okay. We're going to start with the one we built before, which is our setup. Okay. And there's a couple things it did. If you remember, we passed in a main region. And the reason for this main region is it says, this is where I'm going to collect all the data. And I'm going to, yes, thank you, Rob Sutter. He's popping some stuff in there for us. this is where we're going to collect the data, right? So we don't. So when we set this up, just to recap, when we set up config, we can say in all these regions, collect the region specific one. But in this one special region, you can set up for whatever region you want. I use US West 2. I want you to collect all the global because some resources are global. So we want to collect those in one region rather than collecting a bunch. Go back to that episode and I explained that well. Okay. So we do some conditions to make sure it's the same region. If it is, then we set up, that's going to set up some different things, right? So then we set up our notification bucket is where we store the data, our topic if we want to send out information, the delivery channel, and then we're going to set up our recorder, all right? And this is per region, and then the properties for that to do that. So this is a recap, so we're not going to spend a lot of time there. But what we want to do is we want to be able to say, now I'm going to put this, where I can get it to, any account in any region. So, and Rob is killing it with the links there. So if you take a look at serverlessland.com, this is a new serverless website that we put up that has all this content in it, and we'll point to Serverless Land, which is our YouTube channel. So quick break or quick advertisement on that. And then this is the Serverless Land YouTube channel as well here. There you go. So thank you, Rob, for throwing those out there. I appreciate that. You are a good man, sir. All right. So let's break this down and make it reusable. Okay. So we're going to pop over to the next template here. And if you're new to the show, you'll think, wow, why doesn't he type anything? Well, you'll really understand if you watch too long that there's a reason I don't type. So yes, Rob is our MVP. Thank you for Alex Smasha. He definitely is. So, all righty. All right. So with this, let's talk through. There's a couple things, right? So first of all, we've changed the parameters we're going to collect. All righty. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I do type just fine. Okay. We're sticking with the main region. We want to know the main region. And I'm setting the main region. This is going to be the main region, whether, and you can add an extra parameter if you want, but main region is if I'm using the aggregate account or regular accounts. And we'll explain the aggregate account in a minute. That's the first time I've mentioned that, so we'll kind of talk about that. Okay. So we have the main region. Then we're going to say the aggregate account ID. Okay. Now, here's how this works. Okay. There's a couple of ways. But I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it, and I'll tell you the other one in just a minute. So what we've got, and I'm gonna pop myself back up here because I do a lot of hand motions and gestures that may not be important, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right. So what we've got is you've got a primary account. We call it a main account, okay, or aggregate account. And this is the account that's going to be maybe my admin account where I want all the data to flow. Right. Then I'm going to have my sub accounts. All right. And these are the accounts that are going to report to this aggregate account. It's going to say, hey, I'm going to record in all my separate sub accounts, but the aggregate account is going to get all that data so that I can look at, trends and filters and things like that. All right. So going back to our parameters, how this is going to work then is if we go to the aggregate account, we have to tell all of the accounts what the aggregate account ID is, because we're going to do some permissions in a little bit, all right? The second thing we're going to do is we need a list of sub accounts, okay? So the aggregate account is going to tell all the sub accounts, hey, you need to allow this account to record the data. The sub account list is going to tell the aggregate account, hey, these are the sub accounts that you need to record data from. All right. So what we're doing is we're forming a union or a group of accounts that can talk to each other. We're allowing access back and forth. This can also be done with organizations. All right. So I can pass organization ID to do that as well. All right. I don't have an organization set up, so we're going to do it this way. But if you're setting up organizations, this will make sense to you as well. Okay, so that's why we now collect what is my aggregate account, what is my sub account list. And the sub account list is a comma delimited list. So it's literally just going to be account 1, comma, account 2, comma, account 3, no spaces. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to do some conditions. And we're going to say, is this the main region? If this is the main region, whether I'm in the aggregate or if I'm in a sub account, then collect the global data. Right. So that's the thing. That's the same as we did that before. But now we're going to say, is this the aggregate account? So if this is the aggregate account, we're going to treat this a little differently. And how do we verify if it's the aggregate account? Well, we're going to use some intrinsic functions and some pseudoparameters, right? So we're going to say, you passed me an aggregate account ID. And this is the ID that I'm working in right now. I'm using this pseudoparameter to grab that, AWS account ID. If those match, then the account I'm working in is the aggregate account. It's your primary account. Okay, see how that works? If they don't, then we'll think it's a sub account. There you go. So some magic there. All right. So now let's come down here. And this is where we say, if this is the only thing we add that's different from the rest of them, we're going to say, if this is the aggregate account, so I'm created in the main account only, I'm running a condition. I'm saying this condition, this is the aggregate account. That's the only way this particular resource will get created. If that's the case, then I'm going to say the account aggregate sources, and I'm going to pass it this sub account list, right? So what I'm saying here is these are the accounts you need to collect data from, right? Yes, pound equals all over the place. I'm getting crazy with my conditions. That's right. All right. And then I'm going to allow all the regions from those accounts. And then I named the aggregator. So there you go. So this is going to create in my aggregate account. And that's the only account that is going to get created in. All right. I'm talking a lot. All right. Any questions so far? All right. Okay. Looking here. Okay, nothing going on. Looks like Rob's asked you some questions. We are good to go there. Rob, I can't do this without you, buddy. All right. So moving on. Okay. Now, in all the other accounts, including the aggregate account, because we may collect data in the aggregate account as well. So this template says, hey, do it in the aggregate account also. So what it's going to do is it's going to give permission to all the accounts. It's going to give permission to the aggregate account to collect data, right? So in each sub account, we're going to create this aggregate account auth, okay? And it's an aggregation authorization. And we're going to pass in the aggregate account, and we're going to pass in the region from that aggregate. So you can really get granular. You say, hey, only this account and this region can I store this data and can it collect this data. So I'm passing in the region as the main region as well. So that's the authorized. All right. And then past that, this all looks the same. We're doing our data bucket. We're doing our notification topic, our delivery channel, and everything else, because all that is account specific. So what we've done here is we've given this the ability to say, I'm going to take the same template and I'm going to push it out, and it's going to create my aggregate account, and with just simple, passing in data, and it's going to create all the sub accounts I want to collect data from. Now, I'm not going to deploy this right now because I've already deployed these because I want you to see how it's kind of working. So we're going to pop over here, and I have a couple of accounts we're looking at. And yes, I'm going to use Safari for this. And actually, I'm going to pull it off screen for one moment and load this up. So to get the two different accounts, I'm going to use Safari for my aggregate account. And I'm going to use Chrome for my other. That way I can log into two different accounts without a big issue. I should have been logged in, but we're getting there. All righty. One second. Okay, so let's go to config. Okay, now last week I showed you the rules and how those work in Chrome. Let me blow this up a little bit. All right, hopefully that's big enough. All right, so we're looking at in the aggregate account. That's really hard for me to say. The main account, primary account. We're looking at the aggregate accounts dashboard. Now, to be clear, the data we're seeing in this dashboard is simply for resources inside the aggregate account. Remember, we use, thanks, Rob. Rob has always backed me up. He is my security expert. So this is the kind of stuff I get from Rob. So, and I back this up. I do appreciate everybody being here with us. So, all right. So what I'm looking at is just the data for the aggregate account. So don't be confused. But if I drop down to the aggregate view, now we've got, and there's still actually data being collected. So when you see this, we can go in there, but we've got some information. All right. So let's take a look and see these. Now, notice I've got, we're going to go into the rules here, and we can look at the rules, and I've got compliance and non-compliance. And notice There's this is from another account. I only have one other account in mind, so don't be alarmed there. So I've set up the one other account, and I can say, but I've got different regions of that one. So I can say, show me everything in US West 2. Okay, and it can show me, and this is the same data that if I were to go straight to the sub account, I would get that, right? Okay, so that's so this allows me to see all these accounts. Now I could load this into a bunch of different ones. I've just done 2 regions and another account for the moment, but you get the idea. I have the ability to filter through accounts, filter through regions. I could say, show me all the non-compliance, and I can also add multiple aggregators. So this is the aggregator I set up. So I may say, hey, I'm going to have one aggregator for, let's say, all my developer accounts. I'm going to have another aggregator for all my staging accounts and another for all my production accounts. So you can get really granular in config and say, I want to look at these different things. All right, looks like we might have a question. All right. So, hey, so we got this question. Hey, thanks for the great content. You're welcome. And let's pop this over here real quick. It says, thanks for the covered up. Why would I ever need serverless framework instead of using SAM to manage? Okay, so we get into that. So we'll take a moment to ask that. Normally I don't do that, but so this is a good question. Why would I use serverless framework? Why would I use SAM? So this is Sessions with Sam. I'm going to tell you SAM every time. However, serverless framework's a great framework. They've done some great work. Austin and his team, they're a great team, and they've done it for a long time. I would say it's preference based, right? What works best for you? There are some reasons why I choose SAM, and I think for some different things it does some things better, and I'm glad to have that conversation another time. But I think the bottom line that I come to is absolutely use a framework. I can't tell you how many times I'll be talking to people and go, how are you deploying this? We write our own scripts. Don't write your own scripts. Use a framework. There's some great ones out there. SAM obviously is my favorite. It's the one to go with. Serverless framework, also awesome. They're a partner of ours. So hopefully that helps. There you go. All right. That may have been a rhetorical question, but I talked about it anyway. I don't know what Rob was talking about here, but backing up like a butt. There you go. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, all right. So let's get back into the show here a little bit. So we've looked at this. So I know right now you're very, very excited about this. You're like, man, this is awesome. Okay. But let's go back to the management for a minute. Okay. So we're going to go back to our code. And if you notice, I'm using code. Normally I use Cloud9 for this, but I'm using code because I was launching to different accounts. And so I was able to say with my little ASP plugin that we talk about, I could hit this account. And then I could also say E. Johnson, and then I have another account that I call my test account. So by profile, I'm easily able to choose which account I want to deploy to just simply by changing the profile I'm using. So if you're not using AWS Profiles, I heavily encourage you to. And then this little plugin obviously is great. All right, so I made one more template for you, okay? Because if you remember, when we walked through this, I'm going to bring this back out. The first thing we did in the first template is we set up all the regions. This was the first week of this session. The second thing we did is we went through and we set up another template to manage all the rules. Or to manage all the managed rules. And I'm not going to walk through all these other than just to show them to you. Hey, these are the different rules we launched, different things like that. Then we have another template that has custom rules, right? And so we went through and we built, and this one includes a Lambda function to do that. And so we built out all the permissions and everything required, okay? So 3 templates, and those, if you're doing config with this, those are going to be, you make changes a lot. Remember I talked about, hey, let's do a developer one, let's do a staging one, let's do a production one. You may have different rules for those. You may have different criteria that you want to work with. And so what you can do is you can set these up differently, and those rules, you may say, these are my dev rules, these are my production rules. And I could go in and let's go back to our last template here, which I'm just gonna pop open here. Boy, I've got a lot open. Here we go, number 4. Okay, I could go into this and I could add all of those in here, right? And here's my options, and I can get conditional, and I can get crazy and things like that. But that becomes a kind of a big, hairy unmanageable template, right? And what we want, one of the mantras that we talk about a lot is less code and less template, right? One of the purposes of SAM is to bring those lines of code down. I can launch a DynamoDB table in 2 lines of code. How many? 2. That's right. I use that one because 2 is as far as I can go. But we want to be able to bring those lines of codes down. So let's say I want to combine these all and use them. Well, we have this really cool thing that, to be honest, I haven't made much use of till recently. And then it was like, oh, man, why aren't you doing that? And I think it might have been you, John Walsh, that was working with this, with the application. Yeah, I think it was. So here's an easy way to add templates in. Okay, here's an easy way to combine this all. So we're going to go to my 5th template, my reusable setup full here. And this looks just like the other one. We've got the conditions. We've got everything going on here. And then what I can do is right down here, I'm going to add some reference, some applications. Let me get down to it. Okay. I'm going to load up my managed rules, and I'm going to load up my custom rules. And in this, I'm treating these as serverless applications. Now, these are standalone templates. You remember, let's go back to the custom rules one. These are standalone, full-on application templates. Nothing secret about this, okay? So, but in my template here, I can refer to those as applications, and I give a location. So and literally all I have to do is say type application property. Location is under the 2-manage-rules template.yaml. So I just give the location of the template itself. Okay. All right. So what happens here is it will turn these into nested stacks. Right. So it allows you to say, oh, here's my primary one. That's my configuration. And then I'm going to have my nested stack. And what's really slick is I could come in here and I could say, I could build another set of custom rules. Let's say that we'll call it the dev custom rules or something. And then I could slap some conditions on this to say conditions, and then based on whatever conditions I want. So you can get a lot of flexibility and reusability with these templates by using 1, intrinsic functions, pseudo parameters, and conditions, and 2, using this application. So, all right. So check it real quick here to see if we have any questions. Hopefully that makes sense. And so with this, to change this, I'll show you. I have this launched in US West 2. I have it launched in US East 1. So now using my demo account, E. Johnson, hey, how you doing? ASP. E. Johnson demo. There we go. Let's launch this in one more region. Okay. And I'm going to use just some dummy accounts that I've got. So if you read an account number, you got it. Knock yourself out. So we're going to say, let's get rid of this over here. It might help us out just a bit. Okay. We're going to say SAM. Make sure I'm in the right. I'm not. Hang on a second. CD5. Hang on, I can't tell what directory I'm in. 1 second. All right, I'm in sessions with SAM. There we go. CD governance. And now you're seeing why Eric does not type live. Okay, this is why this happens. Okay, we're going to governance. Where is that? There it is. CD. Yeah, victory. All right. Okay, that was rough. That was really hard to watch. Okay, so now we're going to do SAM deploy -G. Now, you'll notice here, and it's loaded up, so I'm going to leave it in there. I need to pass 2 capabilities, okay? Because we're pulling in these stacks and we're doing some things with it. I need to be able to do auto expand and capabilities IAM, okay? Because I'm creating some IAM things and I need to expand those stacks, right? So I can pass those in with the deploy functionality. So I'm going to add -G because I want to do this guided, and then I'm going to pass some capabilities so that it knows, hey, I want this to have the rights to do those. So when I hit enter, then what it's going to do, it's going to ask me my stack name, which we want to keep it as auto config. Okay. But now we're going to go US East. Nope, I'm sorry. We're going to go back to West. US West 1, because normally I do 2. All right. So this is the region that I want to deploy the stack in. All right. Then we're going to say, I still want my main region as US West 2, because that's where I collect all the data. Okay. So we're going to leave that default. Then I get my aggregate account. So what this is asking is, what is the aggregate account that we're going to load this all up to? And let me paste this in here. And you can't see it because I have set those parameters as no echo. If you don't understand that, I have a show on there talking about how to do secrets. Okay. And there's my sub account list. These are all the sub accounts that are getting popped in. And then we're going to confirm the changes. And yes, we want to give it credit to do all that. Okay. So what you didn't see, it showed the values that it was doing. I kind of had those hidden because I really don't want to show my account numbers. So here you go. Deploying that was that easy. And so I could do that to different regions as needed. So we can pull this up now so you can see a little more as they're coming through. And it's showing I'm going to create all these things, right? And so it's going to create the aggregate account auth. It's going to link those up. It's going to add everything we need. Yes, SSM. So oh, hey, we had something blow up. I'm adding, wait a minute, embedded stack was not so. Let's read this real quick. Okay. Let's get to the top of this. Hang on. Sometimes these blow up. Was not successful. The following resources failed to create. No public rule. API gateway. Okay. Source creation canceled. The following. All righty. Data bucket code. Rollback requested by user. Well, it didn't give us much on why that didn't go out, did it? All right. So we are coming up on time here. So I'm not going to debug this live, but I am going to debug it and tweet about it. I've launched this over and over. So what I'm guessing is, number one, is either there's a service that may not be available or I'm stomping on something. These shouldn't be. But I will debug this and tweet it. This is part of live streaming right here. This is the thing that, you go, well, yeah, sometimes it blows out. Don't be alarmed. The stack does work. If you stagger it like you did the individual ones, it works. Or if you launch as I know why it blew up. I know why it blew up. Okay. So I am, and I need to actually set it so it doesn't. This is actually a fix I'll make. I'll bet you money that it didn't. No, that's regional. So here I am. This is why I don't debug a lot. I'm doing it live. This should have worked. I'll figure it out and tweet it out. Yeah, thank you. Rob's throwing all this out so you know. Whoa. Yeah, follow me on EDJ Geek on Twitter. I'll get you the answer on why that crashed. And then I'll put the comments in the video when we post it. But check this out, try it out, and maybe you could solve it, figure out what happened. Again, I launched this in multiple regions last night. It was fine, so I'll just I may have fat fingered something. So with that, this is the end of our governance section. We've done 4 weeks on governance. That's a lot. So we're going to move on next week, and I'll be announcing that shortly on what we'll be talking about. Because I'm going to change some stuff up. So watch the Twitter feed to see what's coming out. If you have questions, obviously you always can do it live, but hit Rob or I on Twitter. Rob, make sure you put your Twitter handle there as well. Rob is the step functions guru. I mean, he does a lot of stuff, but he's a step function monster. So he'll do a lot of that as well. So the big reveal is coming up. We'll see what happens. I can't promise you anything. With that, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to debug this, figure out why it didn't work, watch in the next day or so to see what happened there. And if you don't see it, hit me and prompt me. Hey, what happened there? All right. Stay safe. Serverless for everyone. And have a good night. I'm out.